Welcome to Excelling in Christ, the podcast where we aim to become more and more like Christ day by day. We're delighted with the progress we've made, but we're determined to make more and more progress. And why do we do that? Because we want to shine brighter and brighter. We want to make the world a better place. We want our lives to actually count for something more than just making a buck and paying the bills. So if you'd like to see some positive change in your life, then you're going to be delighted with today's podcast, because we're going to look at one specific attribute of Christ that you can imitate and make real changes in your life starting today. So let me ask you, do you ever fantasize about what it would have been like to travel with Jesus? To strap on the sandals and just walk those dusty roads with him 2,000 years ago? Probably you have. Most of us do. And what would it have been like? What would we have seen in Jesus, and what different attributes would have come to the surface? And of course, there are a lot of them we could talk about. And the one I've chosen for today is that intense focus that he had on doing the Father's will. I mean, we're talking about a focus so intense that when he was 12 years old, he stayed in the temple at Jerusalem, and when his parents finally found him and asked him, "What are you doing? Where have you been?" he said, "Did you not know that I must be about my Father's business?" You talk about focus, intention, purpose, starting at 12 years old, and I know a lot of us go, "Well, yeah, but he was Jesus," and he was Jesus. But we can have that same focus and intention also, and it will be life transforming. So Jesus wasn't just a wandering generality. He wasn't just this daydreamer that walked the streets kind of finding his next meal and just wasting time. He knew why he was here, and he knew what he needed to accomplish, and it is that sense of purpose that changes life. For Jesus, he knew he had to train his disciples. He knew he was setting the stage for that what we call it, that horrible day on Calvary, that wonderful day on Calvary. It's both at the same time, isn't it? He knew he was building his church. He knew he was leaving this earth and going to leave everything in the hands of his disciples. And so there's a lot going on here. And Jesus was successful. I mean, he was crazy successful. So how did he do it? And how can you do it? Okay, we'll get to the you part in a minute, but basically, Jesus just found this wonderful, ingenious balance between his mission and daily life. He was totally approachable. He wove what he came here to do right in with the daily activities of life. And it wasn't distant. It wasn't like he was going to go off to a monastery and just meditate 18 hours a day. He wasn't cold. He wasn't all uppity. He never comes across as holier than thou. Now, I agree. He gave the Pharisees down the road a time or two, called them on the carpet, however you want to say that. But Jesus did not live outside of real life, but right in the smack dab middle of it all. So let's try to make a biblical analogy here to take this point a little bit further. Jesus was the great physician. He entered the emergency room of planet Earth with all the compassion and care and love of the best physician you can think of, and he entered it to be in contact with the people in need. That's his focus. That's what he did. And so he transformed our world, changed it so much that there's never been one single person in all of history to have the impact that Jesus had. And now, if we imitate Jesus, I'm not going to tell you you'll transform the world globally for generations to come, but I am going to tell you imitating Jesus can change your life. And I'm talking about your own little corner of the world, which was one of my favorite phrases. If you change your own little corner of the world, and I change my own little corner of the world, and we get a bazillion other people to change their own little corner of the world, we collectively change the entire world without any of us having done anything much more difficult than make changes in our own little sphere of life. And I think that's awesome. We're going to talk about that some more in just a moment, but I do want to use one more passage on the focus of Christ, and then we'll move on to the application that we've already kind of hinted at there. So John 4, verse 31 through 34, this is the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman at the well. And when the disciples come back from having run an errand, And they're having a discussion, and they went to get food, and Jesus said he didn't need any more food. And I'm paraphrasing, of course. Please go back and read the passage. But Christ says there, and this is not a paraphrase, my food is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work. Now, I want to again notice the focus of Christ. He said, my food, that's his sustenance, is to do the will of the Father and to finish that work. So he's got a focus, and he uses that focus, and he goes through life with that focus, and he can say at the end of his mission, it is finished. I've done the work you gave me to do. Now, how can you and I use that? How can we learn from it? How can we be like Jesus? Okay, first, you got to have a sense of your mission. You must know your purpose and be very aware of it here. And if you don't, you're just going to be that wandering generality. So there are like only a bazillion different verses we could use to talk about our purpose and our mission in life. And I want to keep that really, really simple for right now. And I'm just going to refer you back over to Matthew 5. It's verse 13 through 16 if you want to look it up. But that's where he talks about we're the salt of the earth and we're a light. And he tells us to let our light shine before men that they may see our good works and glorify our Father who's in heaven. And so there's the simplicity of our mission. Let's call that our mission in a nutshell. So who does it apply to? Every single one of us. And I just want you to pause a moment, just daydream with me a moment. How would your life change if just a few people in your circle, in your social circle, in your family started doing that? They started letting their light shine, and they said, that's my purpose here. I came to be the salt of the earth. I came to be a light that shines, and I'm going to simply focus on doing that one thing. And we do have that potential. That is so doable, and it will transform marriages. It will transform families. It will change social circles. It could change entire communities, hypothetically. And I want to ask you a different question. Instead of thinking about a whole community, would it be worth it if it just transformed one relationship in your life? If by letting your light shine brighter, one relationship changed, your marriage with your kids, with a relative or an in-law, would it be worth it? And I think almost every single one of us would go, absolutely yes. So what's the problem that we face? Well, I have some good news for you. It's certainly not lack of power. And I have some more good news for you. It's definitely not lack of knowledge. We have all the knowledge and the power that we need. But I do have some bad news for you. And that is its lack of willingness. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. The flesh pushes back against this and argues like, I don't know why. Because we sit here intellectually and we go, yeah, this will work. This is a great idea. And then when it actually comes to implementing the idea, the flesh goes, whoa, wait a minute. No. Why is that? Well, I think the flesh is lazy, and the flesh wants somebody else to do all the changing. The flesh certainly wants the changes we're talking about. We want to see people letting their light shine and focused on Jesus and imitating Jesus. It's a wonderful sermonette, but we want other people to do it. Too many people professing Jesus, and that includes me and you at different places in our development, were too afraid to really follow Jesus. Oh, we love the basic things that he said, and we thought other people, yeah, they ought to follow Jesus. But we became backseat drivers. We became cherry pickers. We became the ones sitting back going, but all I really need to do, is follow Jesus. That's what I need to do. I need to quit cherry picking it. I need to quit fussing about it. I need to quit backseat driving and just do what Jesus said what I want others to do. So, I want others to change. Well, I stay the same, and that just isn't going to work. It isn't going to work. Think about that a second. Think about how ugly that sounds. Can you think of anything more selfish and self-centered and stingy than that idea? I want to sit back and stay me. I want to be the same old me I've always been, but I want everybody around me to do all the changing. Look, unless you are Jesus, the perfect, sinless Son of God, you've got to change, and I do too. So let's get back to the good news. As more and more of us get over the fear, greater and greater changes are going to happen and take place. That potential is right there in our hands. God gave us control of earth. He gave us control of our own little corner of the world. He gave us, mankind, control of the government. And all we've got to do is wake up and just start doing the right thing. John 12:24, Christ said, unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. We've got to learn to die. We've got to learn to give it up, present our bodies a living sacrifice, be transformed by the renewing of our mind, as Romans 12:1 and 2 would say, and literally learn to think a different way and quit thinking the way the rest of the world things. Now, why would we do this? Because here's the beauty of it. It's not this great, big, crazy, drastic change we're talking about. All Jesus is asking of us when he says, take up your cross and follow me, walk in my footsteps, when we're talking about this focus on Matthew 5 and 16, letting our light shine, all we're talking about is just being a better person. Think about that a second. We were talking about just being a little kinder, a little more patient, a little more understanding with other people, and that can weave right through everything we do in our daily life. From the way we drive, the way we treat the person behind the counter, the way we stand in the grocery line, the way we talk to our mate, talk to our children, so on and so forth. It is just that marvelously simple. Now, did you kind of catch the paradox in that? This is nothing exceptionally profound. And yet it is exceptionally profound. If just one person in your life does it. Flip over there to 1 Corinthians 13, read verse 4 through 7, that wonderful definition of love, and just say, okay, if one person in my life really started practicing that kind of love, what would happen in my life? It'd change for the better, absolutely. Now, what happened if a group of people did it? Man, it'd transform your corner of the world entirely, wouldn't it? And all it takes is you and I being a little more considerate of one another as we go through the mundane, routine, repetitive activities of life. So did you notice God's divine wisdom in all of this? Every single one of us can do this without needing years of training. You don't need a theological degree. You don't have to have a preacher telling you how to do it. All you've got to do is truly, honestly, sincerely love your neighbor as yourself. Or as we like to call the golden rule, Matthew 7:12, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And if we did that with intense focus, and that's what Jesus did, he was there to do the work of his Father. And I'm telling you, this is the mission that God gave us. So now, you have a basic, but you want to take it to the next level? There is a way to take it to the next level. We can go beyond just loving those people within our life that are lovable, and we can take it to a John 3:16 level of love. Let me explain real quick. John 3:16, that's for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, but he loved the world while we were dead in our sins. What I'm saying is God loved the unlovable. So it's one thing for me to love people who I already love and treat them better. Sure, that's a good thing to do, but there's something more. When I take that same attitude and love the people that don't deserve it, they are unlovable at times, they are stubborn, they are irritating, and I say to myself, I am not going to let them dictate the way I live my life. I am going to walk in the footsteps of Jesus. I am going to be a light that shines, and I will not let their sour attitude put my light out. Now we've taken it to a whole new level, and if we can keep doing that consistently, more than a day when we're enthusiastic, but learn to make that a habit of life, we can transform our own little corner of the world. Now here's the bad news, or the good news, depending on how you want to take it. It's a choice. It is a choice that each and every one of us have to make. If you and I sit around waiting for someone from the outside to come in and transform our lives, it is never, ever going to happen. Other people are too busy living their own lives to come in and make changes in my life for the better. In fact, most people are so busy, so focused on their own life, that if they do come in and make any change in my life, it is going to be a change to their benefit and not to mine. It's going to be like big corporate America just getting their hand in my wallet and taking my money and giving me second-rate product in the process. If we're going to transform our lives, our marriage, our family relationships, a friendship, workplace, whatever you have in mind, it is going to start when we transform from the inside out and let that light shine and become an influence that other people hopefully start to feed on and influenced by, and they start making changes. So, how do we do all this? Simply by imitating that intense focus of Jesus. And when and where are we going to do it? Just in your daily walk. That's it. Next time you deal with the clerk behind the counter, smile. When you smile, it puts good serotonin in their brain, or whatever that drug is. Maybe it's a little dopamine, and it makes them feel happier, and they're more likely to smile at the next person too. We're just going to kind of pay it forward, to use a modern term. So now I know all of this sounds so crazy simple. This is like kindergarten level stuff. But please, 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 if you've listened this far, do not dismiss it. This is the divine wisdom of God himself talking to us. He said, let your light so shine before men that they can see your good works. He knows, and I think in your heart of hearts you know, it will transform your life, your relationships, and potentially your own little corner of the world. And just even though it's pie in the sky, we're going to put it out there as we close. We can potentially change an entire community, whether it's just local or global. Just let that kind of soak in. Enjoy that for a moment. Thanks for listening. I'm glad you took the time to join me today. If you enjoyed what you heard, let's work together. Share this podcast wherever you do your own social networking. And as always, I hope you have a great day.